Marketing communication strategies. Let's get into this one. So this is the first part of the promotions of the 4Ps. So you remember, when you think about the 4Ps, you have product, place, price, and promotions. Promotions is basically communications. And that's what we're going to talk about, part of that here. So again, this is part of the 4Ps. So what is a promotion? This is interesting to think about. There are 4 different types you can generally talk about when you're thinking like, how are you going to reach out to your customers? And what I mean by this is when you're communicating with your customers, you have 4 different ways that you can sort of strategically set up what you're saying depending on what your goal is that you're trying to say. So the first one is awareness. The second one is information. The third one is attitude or image. And the fourth one is call to action. So I'm going to go through each one of these and give you kind of, not an example, but what each one means. So generally, when you're thinking about awareness, it's more often a brand new product, right? This is a product that ultimately people just aren't aware it exists. And so what you're doing in this type of ad or this type of communication, you're basically screaming at the top of your lungs, look at me, I'm here, right? You're not trying to sell anything. You're just simply trying to tell people, look at me, I am here. Because people don't know you exist. So if you think back to other previous videos, I talked about how in the product life cycle, in the very, very beginning, when you have an introduction of a new product, you really want to focus on this awareness phase. And so all of your communication that you're putting out there, whether it's your ads or your public relations, whatever it is, you're constantly screaming, look at me, here I am. That's it. It's that simple. Now in the second one, people start to maybe become kind of aware of who you are. And so now you're going to start to educate them or inform them about what you do. Why should people buy your product? Why should people hire you? What problem are you solving, right? That's the information step. So now your ads or your communication become a little bit more like thicker kind of thing. Like you can tell them a little bit more. And the reason is because people already know you exist now. So now you need to tell them what problem you're solving. Like you're educating them. And so once you've done this education thing and you've told them who you are and what problem you solve, then you can move on to the next 2. And the next 2 are very similar. We have the attitude/image and then the call to action. The attitude to me is more, you're starting to get up into the maturity of your product. Sometimes people will put attitude and image in the very beginning, and I think it's really difficult. If you're good and you have the right product at the right time and the place, you can get away with this, but generally it's difficult simply because people aren't really aware of who you are and what you do yet to really start to think about what kind of brand you are. And so there has to be a little bit of a pause sometimes to get there. And when you're doing this, to me, these are our big famous brands. Like a great one is Red Bull. If you think about how Red Bull is constantly, everything they touch emphasizes their image and their attitude of the extreme, right? Every single thing that they touch nowadays has this like constant image. So us as consumers, we never even think about what kind of brand is. We automatically know where Red Bull sits sort of in the marketplace because of how they're communicating to us. Everything they sponsor, everything they participate in, it's all the same. It's that extreme like athlete kind of area. The last one is call to action. Call to action is when you're trying to get your customers to do something. So if you're a newer-ish brand, it's oftentimes a little more difficult, not always. Very obvious call to actions to me are like late night TV or the shopping channel. They're always pushing these call to actions. But recently, a big example that's taken place in the US is Prime Day. The reason Prime Day is a call to action is because they're saying this is only a 24-hour window that you can go and purchase these products. All of these products are on sale today and only today. So everybody rushes to buy them. Another example will be Black Friday. Okay, so these 4 types of promotions are basically what it means is what is the strategy of your communication, right? What is the strategy of your communication and what are you hoping to communicate to your customers? And as I said, a lot of this is really closely related to the product life cycle and its message. So why do new brands, companies struggle so much, right? What is their issue? compared to mature brands. And the simple reason is because most new brands really struggle in the first two areas. The first one that they struggle heavily on is just simply awareness. It's hard to get enough people to be aware of your brand so that you can sell it. I'll give you an example from my personal experience. When my wife and I, we had our skincare brand a few years ago, people would always ask, what can I do to help your brand become more successful? We didn't need help. The biggest reason we weren't successful is because simply people didn't know we existed. If people don't know you exist, they can't buy it. Think about a brand like Neutrogena or Olay. Most people in America could probably tell you what they are, at least something about it. But our brand, Catherine Gin, is pretty much non-existent in most people's minds. So if you think only 10,000 people know your brand, you need to have an extremely high conversion rate to make any money and to be successful. So you need that number to be into the hundreds of thousands or even maybe the millions to really be successful. And so that's what happens is most brands struggle with that kind of communication / information to get people aware of who you actually are and that, hey, I have a good product that can solve your problems. And this is why most products on Amazon struggle to become successful, is because people don't even know they exist. And so they always buy the brands that they know they exist instead of the ones that they don't know. This is a commercial. I'll link it below. This is the smartphones or Apple's iPhone very, very first commercial. And it's a great, wonderful example of how a brand is educating you or informing you about what this new product does. There's nothing to do with call to action. There's nothing to do with attitude or image. It's purely 100% educational. And it's a really, really great example of how they're teaching you what this new product is. The second goal of your communication. So once you've come up with a strategy, now you have to think about, how do we get customers to engage in our brand? How do we get customers to engage with our communication? How do we get them to actually pay attention? So it's believed that most people see somewhere between 2, 3, 4, maybe even up to 5,000 ads a day. Think of that. 3 to 4 to 5,000 ads a day you see every single day. And you might ask, are you sure? Think about your phone. Every time you go on social media, you see multiple sponsored ads. Every time you go on YouTube, you see multiple. You open the TV, you see multiple. You watch Netflix, you say, I don't watch TV, I'm only on Netflix. There are product placements everywhere. You drive down the road, you see billboards, you see signs on cars. These are all ads. It's all everywhere you go. You walk through the hallways, it's everywhere. Now, take a second and think about this. On average, how many ads do you actually pay attention to a day? Usually when I ask a class of, say, 90 students, people will say 2, 3, maybe 4 ads a day they actually pay attention to. And oftentimes it's an accident, but whatever. That doesn't matter. You're actually looking at it. So now as a company, I have to think about this. If I put an ad out there and I'm trying to communicate something, and people are seeing 5,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 ads a day, but they only pay attention to 3 to 4, how do I get them to pay attention to my ad so that they actually remember who we are? That's your goal. It's extremely difficult. So whenever people kind of laugh at marketing and think it's not that much, it's not that important or whatever, think how difficult that is. It's extremely difficult, right? But that's your ultimate goal, is to get people to pay attention to your ad. So now there's 6 different ways to sort of like focus on your ad and to see if you're doing well or not, right? So here's the first one, is your mission. What is the objective of your communication? The second one, who's your market? Who's your target market? Who's going to look at this ad? Who's it directed towards? The third one, what are you going to tell them? The fourth one, what type of media are you going to use? And I'm not saying, oh, we're going to be on TV, we're going to be on the internet, we're going to be in a billboard. You need to be really focused. Are you on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Google? Are you on cable? Are you on Netflix, Hulu, Prime, baseball games, Football games, soccer games. Where are you? Buses, taxis. Where is it? The last two are really important, but I think they're more important in today's market than they've ever been. I'm going to actually skip to measurement. And measurement has changed a lot recently. And what I mean by that is this. If you think to the previous videos that I've shown and you look at the market research and we talk about quantitative data, I said before, previously quantitative data was not that easy to track. But because of the internet and technology, quantitative data is getting easier to track every single day. And what this means is that because it's becoming easier to track, it's becoming easier to measure how successful our ad is or isn't, how successful our communication is or isn't. And because we can measure it, we can get more accurate measurements. We can understand how much budget we need, which is then we can understand how much money we need to spend to become successful. So when you think of these 6 M's and you follow these closely, it should hopefully help improve your odds of success when communicating with your customers. Then you have to think about there are 4 different types of ways to communicate with your customers. The first one is mass. To me, when I think about mass, I think about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is the #1 viewed event in the US every single year. But the reason it costs so much money to advertise in the Super Bowl is because so many people are watching it. The thing is, though, is so many people are watching it, there's your segment plus many other segments. So you're basically banking on, if I put an ad in the Super Bowl, enough people will see my ad that I'll make money on it, pretty much what you're getting to, right? You're just sort of like throwing a net on the water and hoping you're going to catch a lot of fish, but hopefully you catch some fish. And that's what matters, right? That's mass media. You're not even focused on a target market. You're just spamming everybody. And hopefully enough people will see it that matter. The next one is segment. To me, segmenting is very similar to like using cable TV, the radio, or a podcast. Because you know who's listening and what kind of customer is listening to your podcast or listening to the radio or on a specific blog or maybe even a magazine or even cable TV. You know who that person is. And so you can focus your ad on that very specific person. The last one's customized, which is one-to-one. Social media tries to do this. It works some, but of course, anytime you do customize, it's going to become more expensive. And the last one is consumer to consumer or word of mouth. The question though with word of mouth is what? Is it changing? Well, first of all, let me talk about word of mouth. So if you go back just 15 years, word of mouth was very different than it is today. Because word of mouth back then was me telling my neighbor, my coworker, my spouse, my family about something that I heard. So I was physically telling every person face to face what I heard. So something to travel across the US or an area, a community, took much longer. But now, every time I hear something interesting, I can post about it on the internet or I can post on social media. And they can go to many people that maybe I know or don't know, but they're all seeing it. And so it can travel much quicker. And so because of this, it has changed dramatically how word of mouth works. And that's how we get things that go viral. If you remember back in, I think it was the fall of 2021, when the ocean spray skateboarder guy went absolutely massively viral across America. He went so viral that Ocean Spray actually gave him a free truck as a free thank you for making this video. It's a nonsense video, but it's super fun and cute, and it fit perfectly at the time we were in society. If you remember back to 2021 to 2020, that time during COVID, the pandemic, everybody was very sad and blue, and this ad came out, this video came out, it was very lighthearted and fun. It was perfect. But it spread because of word of mouth today. This would never have worked 10 years prior, 15 years prior. It worked because of how word of mouth works and things can go viral on the internet, right? So word of mouth is completely changing. And the reason viral and word of mouth is so wonderful, 2 reasons. 1, it's free. No one pays for it. And 2 is this. If I see an ad on the internet or on TV, how do I feel? I don't trust it. I'm skeptical because it's an ad. But my friend tells me about it. How do I feel? I believe them, So now I'm a believer. I'm much more into it because someone I know told me, or someone I think I know on the internet told me, right? Someone that I sort of trust, this blogger or this person that I follow. So now the trust is much higher. There's a much higher chance that I'll go and purchase the product. So the trust level goes up and it's free. That's massive. All right, thank you so much. This is the first section of promotions, the fourth P and of the product, place, price, and promotions. This is the type of communication we're talking about. All right, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.